you got to jump. Tipping your toe in the water, often you're using it as a crutch to go back to the old career. And so I'm a big believer that until I was ready to jump completely, I didn't really go toward great success. And if you're really going to want to be successful in something new, you have to clear the path and kind of make the world open. That's when my success started really happening.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Travel Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a different career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne. My normal co-host, Bill Zahller, is on assignment today, so it's just myself. And we're so pleased to have Mark Weinstein on today. So, Mark, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's certainly our pleasure. Really appreciate you taking some time. So, Mark, if you would, can you tell us a little bit about your previous career and what you kind of used to do, and then kind of where your life took you and what you do now?
Yeah, so when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a lawyer forever. And while I was an undergrad at Santa Barbara, I worked for the DA. I went to law school at Loyola Law School. I was the editor-in-chief of the Entertainment Law Journal. So one of the things that I really wanted to do was be an entertainment lawyer. And I clerked in a really great firm that had entertainment clients, and came to realize that an entertainment lawyer was a contract lawyer who carried the bags of their clients around and did a lot of grunt work. And though I did enjoy it and I met some really interesting people, I gravitated to litigation and real estate law. And so I practiced for a couple of years in litigation and did some real estate, some corporate, I got a background, but real estate became my true love.
Okay. So you really, again, were doing different types of law, but found that you loved the real estate side of it. And I think you mentioned also that you had already kind of started doing some real estate investing along the way on the side at the same point in time. Is that right?
Yeah. When we were in law school, the first year especially, I was running around looking for deals, and there was a dean of the school who was like a Jesuit priest, and he said, Mark, he did it with me for a while. He goes, you probably should focus on your studies, your first year law student. And then the second year I did it again. I actually found something, and I didn't have any money. I had negative net worth. And so I went around school and asked kids who would give me their work money, loan money, whatever money to buy this building. And I raised the money and bought my first building at like 23 years old.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. So you syndicated a deal without even knowing what you were doing. So very cool.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. So Mark, you're some folks probably don't know your background, but again, you think you've done a few things in real estate since you've decided to focus there full time. So can you talk about that a little bit and elaborate what you do?
Sure. So while I was in real estate, I did. When there were several recessions, for example, we became a court-appointed receiver. So when there was foreclosures, we would be appointed by the bank would ask the judge to appoint us, and we would do things everywhere from finished construction of a condo project to selling the condos to taking over all kinds of different assets. So using the real estate and legal background, we did the receivership during two of the cycles in the 90s, and in the 2008, we did the receivership. And then as far as in real estate, starting out about the apartments, but in Old Town Pasadena, I took an old jail, a residential hotel, and a livery stable, and converted it into like a vibrant work-live place with restaurants and retail. And the upper floors were office lofts where you could work and live. And so we had like one firm that was a San Francisco-based firm that had both their offices and their residents in the Edison El Rey buildings in Old Town Pasadena. So it was a historic building. And so there was historic tax credits, there was facade credits. It was very involved, and my legal background definitely helped with all the tax credits and facade easements and all the things that we did. And that was a development deal that was, that I did in the early or late 80s, early 1990s. And then that was some of the things I did in my career.
Very cool. So yeah, the idea of mixed use complexes, it seems like that's everything wants to be try to mix use, do mixed use now. And you did an early one, obviously a long time ago, but have you done other mixed use projects since that point? Yeah.
So we did some large scale things. So, I didn't learn enough of headaches in the early 90s. So I went back in 1998 and I bought 10 high-rise industrial buildings in the heart of the fashion district in downtown LA. And I came up with this concept that we'll do like a Soho of downtown, and we'd have basketball, golf, pools, jacuzzis on the roof. We would have underground parking. We'll have a food court. We got Rite Aid. We got a market, and we did lofts, that condo lofts that you could buy, and they were historic tax credit because it was older. They're historic buildings, and so we did it. It was very complex. It was 550 units, 100,000 feet of retail, plus 2 creative office buildings and an intermodal parking structure that we constructed over an ongoing bus depot. So this was complex. We cored the buildings. It was very involved, and not your simple mixed-use project. This was the largest rehabilitation ever done, really, that I know of through adaptive reuse.
Holy moly! Wow. So it turned out obviously highly successful, and
it was highly successful. But at the end, we were going through 2008, so the condos were not selling. We had a low basis. Condos weren't selling very well, but we survived that downturn and made quite a bit of money on the projects, but definitely a lot of risk, a lot of moving pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely, you got to have some intestinal fortitude for some of those type projects. So nice. So Mark, can you think back to maybe your litigation days early on as an attorney? Is there something that you experienced, something that kind of was funny that made you scratch your head a little bit along the way back then?
Well, I worked for this guy, Melvin Belli, and he was a famous trial attorney. And we had all these clients from this rich neighborhood in Orange County that had suffered losses during a fire. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'd never heard of is that having a damage that if you can't have sex with your spouse anymore, that there's an actual claim called loss of consortium. And so Belli came up with this thing that some of the losses that we had as a result, psychological damage from the fire, is that if people weren't having sex, they could make this claim for loss of consortium. And so that was part of the damages that he, had in that case. And so I was the attorney, asked in the depots asking these questions. And so I learned.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Yeah, that's unusual. I know, but that's, he got damages for it. So he's creative.
That's funny. So Mark, as you were realizing that you wanted to shift heavily and go full-time into real estate, kind of what was the deciding factor for that?
Philanthropy has been a driving force in my life. And I saw as a lawyer, lawyers could make good living, mm-hmm. but I saw in real estate a larger potential. And I wanted to do philanthropy on a larger scale. And so I wanted to build something where I could donate a lot, for future generations, and also for this generation while I'm younger. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a driving force that I thought you could do more. If you were successful in real estate, you could have a bigger playing role in the community.
That is actually a awesome story. Just we all need a why. Why do we want to do this? Why do we want to change where we are to go to someplace else, to someplace we think will be better? And obviously we, hopefully, and we'll have to work to make it happen to be better. But that's an awesome one. Did you want to increase your philanthropy? Very nice. I like that. Yeah, very cool. So just as you started down that path, again, you have a very noble goal, philanthropy and whatnot, to be able to give more to others and et cetera. And we'll come back to that as well. But were there initially some obstacles you encountered along the way? Well,
a lot of obstacles in that. I think the development stuff is much riskier than people realize and takes up a lot of your time. And so throughout the different developments I went through, they were very time consuming. And they even if we made money in some of them or most of them, they often took turns that we didn't expect. And the loss of opportunities when you're dealing with one thing, if you're absorbed in your development, there's all these other opportunities that you would have done, could have done, but you don't. And so I call that the opportunity cost. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so we had a lot of opportunity costs, during different cycles in the market because we were dealing with, the development. Whatever it was, whether it was needing an interest reserve, an extension on the loan, mm-hmm. Condos weren't selling very fast, whatever it was, it definitely took you off off of your game a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, certainly. Yeah. That makes sense that you've got to, why it's in a way, it's like you're trying to change the wheels on a moving bus. The bus is going, you got to keep things moving. And, another opportunity knocks on the door, but you just can't pay attention to it because you're so consumed right now. Yeah. Makes sense. So Mark, is there, as you kind of made that shift over doing a lot of development, like you said, and early days in real estate, what would you kind of call your first victory?
First victory. I mean, I guess the first project that we did was a big victory. It was, ironically, I sold it to my secretary or assistant that I had from the lawyer days. I sold it to her. Her parents and I were friends. I became friends with her. She worked for me. I sold her that first building at a nice profit for us, a good basis for her, and she still owns it. So that I would consider the first deal a success. There's many more after that, but that was the first success.
Very cool. Very cool. So if she still owns it today, that was a few years ago. So I'm sure she's got a very low basis right now. And that property.
Yeah. Last time I talked to her a few years ago, she still owned it.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. So in your, in all of your development, all of your real estate days since, is there something funny that you can talk about that is a story that happened to you?
Well, I think it comes out of something bigger, but while I was doing the big development downtown, you wouldn't have thought that was enough. So I bought the largest building in LA, 23 acres in East LA, called the Sears building, the Sears Tower, Olympic and Soto. And so, the economy was changing in 2007, and I decided that I wasn't going to go forward on this development. It was mega development. It was going to be almost $1 billion type development. And I felt like I donated all my time and effort to this building and this project. And so I turned to the mayor, Villagrosa, in Pershing Square, and I told him, you have a family, you're married, and I said, I'm married to a building, and I want to go out and find a wife and a life. And lo and behold, a year later, I met my wife. So I didn't get married to a building. I got married to a beautiful woman.
There you go. much more compatible, I'm sure.
So that was my funny story out of something that was not such a fun thing. I turned something good.
Very cool. Very cool. So what happened with that particular project this year?
So I ended up having, it was sold for a lot of money, but it fell out. And so I had to ride it through the recession. And the day my kids were born, 2013, I had twins. They released the money for buying it from me, and then they closed thereafter. And so they've now owned it for 9 years and haven't done anything. It's a really large project, and I feel so blessed not to be involved in that anymore.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Sometimes the best thing is the day you sell that. We're super enthused and proud of our first acquisition ourselves, and but the day we sold it was even better a day. Yeah. So it was a C property, and we don't do C properties anymore, but there definitely were we did a lot of good for the property itself, and the returns turned out great for the investors, but at the same point in time, we're definitely happy to have moved beyond that. So actually, funny coincidence. So my business partner Bill, who's not on today because of being out on assignment, he has twins, and I have twins.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so I have boy-girl twins. He has girl twins. What are your twins?
I have a 9-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl, Brooke and Blake.
All right. Very cool. Yeah. That's, again, the reticular activating system, we all, we've heard of that. Many of us have heard of that. We've talked about it before. It's like, you never realize how many red cars are there until you go buy the red car. And then, you never realize how many twins are there until you hear about it. And I was coming back from a sales call one time, and the guy that I was in the car with had twins, and we were on the phone with his boss, who also had twins. So it was,
oh my God.
Yeah. Crazy. So Mark, you talked about philanthropy. So if you would kind of elaborate on that a little bit. One of the things we always like to ask our guests is, what do they do, personally or professionally, to give back to others? So talk about that a little bit, please.
So a couple of things. So I never had a mentor. And so one of the things that I've done through some of the philanthropies is help create mentorship programs and be a mentor for many, many years through these formalized programs. So I did that. I gave a large donations to the Jewish Federation and to APAC, things that I'm very passionate about. I think the biggest thing was the camp Heskramer in Malibu burned down during the fires. And before that, we gave the lead gift to help. We were going to rebuild part of the camp. Now we're doing an even larger campaign to rebuild the camp after it burned down. And so I've been very involved with the camp and for the Center for Jewish Life up there that we're also building. So that's been a big thing. And then there's, a bunch of other charities and boards that I sit on. I'm really active in YPO. And I was the multifamily chair there of that group. And so we're doing a lot of stuff. Like, for instance, we formed a nonprofit to do transitional housing for homeless. And I'm putting on a homeless conference for YPO in December, actually. And so there's a multitude of things I do. I spend a lot of my time giving back and planning for the future and the legacy of giving back.
Wow, that's fantastic. Definitely. I think we need a lot of people to, chip in to make sure. I mean, we kind of take the approach. Our belief is that when we've been very blessed, and it's our responsibility and duty and honor, and also honor to give back, and that's kind of way we like to look at things like that. So very nice, very nice. Is there something, obviously you've had a long storied career and you do a lot in the real estate space. Is there anything that you can maybe mention that you've recently implemented that actually has even helped you grow further?
Just having great people. We've been very successful the last few years in kind of turbulent times in buying really great stuff and making good cash flow returns on the multifamily and student housing. And I think it's all about the people. I have a great COO, Natalie Greenberg, and great asset management, Dustin, great acquisition guy, and Tony. And, just really, Natalie's built a really great team here. And I think that, the success we've had the last few years is a reflection of the team that was built and all of them and how they contribute. It used to be very centric in the early days to me being the rainmaker and doing everything. And now I'm more of a conductor, and they're the orchestra, and Natalie's the even higher conductor, and it's a good family of people.
That's awesome. Yeah. Again, having the right people in the bus with you is makes all the difference and helps you go further, faster, and all that. So excellent, very nicely done. So Mark, what advice would you give somebody who's considering making a path change?
Well, I think that you got to jump. One of the things is that if you do it just tipping your toe in the water, often you don't make it because you're using it as a crutch to go back to the old career. And if you're really going to want to be successful in something new, you have to clear the path and kind of make the world open. And so I'm a big believer that until I was ready to jump completely from the law, I didn't really go toward great success because I was doing it half and half for a while, for 1 year. And when I actually gave up, finished my cases and gave up the law, that's when my success started really happening.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, Mark, what's the best way for our listeners to reach out and say hello and maybe learn a little more about what you do?
So I think the website, MJW Investments, I think you can correspond through that. So, MJWinvestments.com, and you can Google me or the website, and you'll get all the information.
Excellent. Good. All right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being on today. We really appreciate you taking time to be on the Road Less Traveled show. So
yeah, I'm glad to have the opportunity, and good luck, everybody.
Absolutely. So we'd also like to thank our listeners. Please continue to give us a 5-star rating so we can bring you more great content today, like our show today with Mark Weinstein. And also thank you again, Mark, for being on. We also like to thank Park Capital Partners that sponsors the show and remind everybody of a couple things. First, we have the Park Capital Partners Value Add Fund, which is a 506c fund open today to accredited investors. And finally, one of the ways that Bill and I give back is that we created the Park Capital Partners Foundation, which is a 501(c) nonprofit. And the way that works quickly is that Park Capital Partners funds the operations of that foundation. So all the money donated goes to do its best work, which is to help others. Second, we donate corporately. Third, personally. And then finally, when investors invest with us in one of our projects, we make a donation to honor that investor to a charity of their choice from a list of 15 pre-selected charities, and it's all different types of flavors and all that. And again, we believe that that's just another way investors can feel good about investing to make money, but also helping somebody else. So appreciate that, and thank you, everybody. Please reach out to Bill and myself at parkcapitalpartnersllc.com. And remember, everybody, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.